Hello and welcome to Move or Improve with Debbie. Thanks for joining me today. I thought I'd chat a little bit today about the remodeling process and what could possibly go wrong. Well, do-it-yourselfers have their own opinion as to how big a job will be and how long it will take and what kind of materials they have. But you know what? That remodeling project that you want to do will not be finished in a 30 or 60-minute segment like what you see on HGTV, especially if you do it yourself. So I'm going to talk about that today. And with over 20 years in doing remodels of houses and kitchens and baths and all kinds of stuff, I've seen a lot of things that have gone wrong in people's projects. And I want to just talk to you. I just did a segment on financing your remodeling, so you want to listen to that and find out how to remodel correctly with the right financing options. But trying to complete a project on your own or DIY, do it yourself, can have negative results and can often wind up costing more in the long run. Projects don't always or hardly ever go according to plan. So here's what I mean. There was a recent ImproveNet survey, and they surveyed 2,000 people, and the questionnaires asked a number of different questions, obviously, but 63% of the respondents regretted attempting at least one of the projects that they wanted to complete. 56% of those responding decided to complete a project by themselves in order to save money. 10% said they would do the project themselves to be sure it's done right. Oh, yeah, right. They felt that they could save at least 60% by doing it themselves rather than to pay a professional. Unfortunately, 1 in 3 respondents had to call in a professional to fix the botched job. And of course, a good contractor can't exactly stop on a dime and bail you out of a mess. And so you may be left with plumbing that doesn't work or a floor that's crooked or whatever. Nearly half of the respondents to this survey said that the home improvement project took longer than anticipated, it was physically harder than they anticipated, or it was technically harder than they anticipated. They also ran over budget by twice as much. So much for keeping the project on budget and anticipating the costs. Homeowners spent an average of 22 hours longer than they expected on projects that fell behind schedule. And in addition, the survey said that 55% said that the finished product didn't look good. Well, duh. Another 24% said it didn't function well. 21% said it didn't hold up over time. They had to rip it out and redo it, and they had to hire a professional at that point. The people who worked on their own projects spent an average of 6 hours researching their project. Many of them confessed to just watching a YouTube video, or they went to a home improvement website and followed along with what the website had to say. But the problem with the website or YouTube video is they deal in generic repairs or remodeling, and they cannot help you anticipate what happens when you knock through a wall and what happened? Well, I didn't know this electrical was here, and oh my gosh, there's the main water line running through the house. Now what do I do? The most commonly attempted projects were interior painting, floor tile installation, bath fixture installations, and hardwood floor installations. The projects that they regretted the most doing were floor tile installations, replacing ceilings, refinishing hardwood floors, installing carpet, and finishing a basement. Now, floor tile installation, if you're redoing a bathroom floor, once you rip out the existing tile or whatever happens to be on the floor, you have to make sure that the floor is level before you put down any kind of underlayment or any kind of tile on top of that. It has to be perfectly smooth and perfectly level. And if you don't have either the right equipment or the expertise to figure that one out, then it can be tricky. Replacing drywall ceilings, that can be an incredible experience. I know I personally have replaced drywall ceilings in an old house that I redid years and years ago. And I taped and spackled and taped and painted all 7 ceilings in this little house. I will never do it again, but I have a great deal of respect for contractors who are good at their job. Refinishing hardwood floors, I've talked to people who've said, oh yeah, I can do that. How hard can it be? Well, then they find out that they didn't go evenly across the sanding process, and they gouged out some of the floor, and then they couldn't fill it in. So it looks worse than when they started. Installing carpet, yeah, well, that's not easy either. You have to take out the old and then take up the tacking strips and then take out the staples that are in the floor underneath. And then if you have to put in new tacking strips and then the new carpet, and then all of that has to be done, and your knees can hurt by the time you're done, because those that equipment that you put on your knees to help you get it jammed up against the wall, that can hurt. Finishing a basement, you may have ideas on what you want to have done, like a lighting, or you want to put in a half bath, or you want to install carpet, or hey, how about we insulate the walls while we're at it? Well, it's not that easy, and it can take longer than you think. You have to have good planning, and it's really easier to get a good contractor to do that for you, especially if it's a large space. 40% of respondents to this survey said that they were sorry they tackled flooring. 35% regretted doing a room addition, and 31% regretted undertaking wall and ceiling projects. Yet another 30% regretted trying to install a cabinet and countertops. That is not easy. The cabinets have to be level, and if they're not level, then chances are the floor underneath that's holding them up is not level. And the countertops will then be uneven as well. So you really can't just say, oh yeah, let's put some new cabinets in. It might be easier to just paint the cabinets and be done with it. The survey, of course, didn't include how much arguing went on between the spouse or the significant other or the partner. That can really be a lot of arguing, and arguing can lead to bickering over the tiniest of issues. It's better to have those conversations about colors, lighting, finishes, hardware, all that stuff ahead of time before you even start, because if you don't have that down pat, you're going to have a lot of surprises as you're going through the project. You can always complete a simple project like, installing a new mailbox. That's a simple project. But be honest and open up front to avoid making a quick choice when your partner is not available. Neighbors don't like hearing you scream at each other. And be mindful that if you work from home, for example, you will have weeks of nightmarish construction noise to contend with. The person staying at home will bear the brunt of the construction mess, so you need to plan accordingly. But don't forget, the day will come when the porta potty leaves the yard and the dust will settle and the job will be finished. Construction is very stressful to live through, but it won't be a way of life for long. So just keep that in the back of your mind, that you're going to have something very usable in the long run. First house I ever bought was a 1914 farmhouse. It needed everything. The kitchen sink drained into a bucket and the basement flooded terribly, but I wanted that house. And I said, I can take off this wallpaper, and the living room and dining room, well, it was called a parlor room at that time, and it was covered with wallpaper. So I said, how hard can this be? This is easy. Well, I started stripping it. I purchased the house in October, and I thought, oh, I'll have this done by Thanksgiving, have all the friends and family over. Well, it was the following spring before I got that project finished, because it turned out that there were 14 layers of wallpaper. There had been no prep work done to make removal simple. So I had to persevere through layers and layers and layers of wallpaper. But when I got down, I found original plaster walls with horsehair in them. It was pretty cool. And as I said before, I personally installed new ceiling drywall in 7 of the rooms, and I taped and spackled until I was exhausted. And then I taped and spackled some more. And believe it or not, there was only 1 bathroom in the house, because originally the house was built with an outhouse, and then they brought in plumbing later on. But it was successfully moved to another location with help. So it was planned out well ahead of time, but I did flux and solder copper pipe until I thought I was going to go crazy. Started the project on a Friday and literally laid all the pipe and everything over the weekend, and then got a shower in the new bathroom by Sunday evening. So that was a big accomplishment. Needless to say, I do have a great deal of respect for good drywall contractors and plumbers and electricians. And as I said, I haven't done drywall since that day, but I do know what to look for in a good drywall person. Another house I worked on needed a new kitchen that was functionally obsolete. Once the design was done and the cabinets were ordered, the kitchen was woefully poorly laid out. I cooked meals in the laundry room using an electric skillet. We didn't have air fryers back then. We ate on paper plates or we ate out. I hired an excellent contractor after I interviewed several to complete the entire kitchen. It turned out beautifully. But it did take over a month, but it was well worth it. And I was able to sell the house after that and got all my money back on the redo, so it made it worthwhile. Then I bought a house a few years ago that was really closer to a teardown than a fixer-upper. It was poorly constructed, but I really liked the location, and I do love a challenge. Either that or I'm really stupid. The downstairs bathroom shower drained very slowly, so I thought, uh-oh, what have I got going on? So I hired a technician to complete a video of the sewer line, and that's something that you should all consider doing if you're having similar problems. Because sure enough, I found out that there was a huge gash in the pipe in the sewer line, and tree roots were growing up through it, and that was causing it to clog up. So unfortunately, the entire floor had to be jackhammered in that bathroom, and a new line had to be put in and somewhat rerouted to make it work properly with the rundown. Well, I figured since I had the floor ripped out, I went ahead and designed a new bathroom with extra features for aging in place for the long term. It's the best bathroom ever. Yes, it's small, but boy, is it well thought out and it works beautifully, and I had a great contractor to help me. Every project that I had to do in that house was done wrong by the previous owners. They had Uncle Fred or somebody that they picked up who did the job, and they didn't permit anything. They didn't think about it. They didn't do it correctly. But on the other hand, I didn't have to worry about saving anything or preserving anything. I just ripped it out and started fresh and did it the way I wanted to do it and the proper way to do it. So if you insist on doing the project yourself, watch out for these supposed renovations, because these will lower a house's value. If you're getting ready to sell, then by all means, take care of these first before you list. First of all, people think they have to put in fancy light fixtures. No, don't do that. Don't install fancy light fixtures. You may think it adds dramatic touches, will make it more appealing. Not. Buyers will be turned off, no pun intended. You need to keep it simple so you appeal to a wide audience of buyers when you do go to sell. The second thing to remember is wallpaper. Notoriously difficult to take off, especially if the surface underneath wasn't prepared properly. So you remove the wallpaper and you paint with neutral colors is the best approach. Third thing to remember is don't put in unique floor tiles or crazy design on the floor that you think looks cool. It's not a time to install something that reflects your personal preference. You want to stick with neutral colors. You can always lay an area rug down in a pattern you like, or if it's in a bathroom, you can have bright colored towels, but just stick with neutrals, or dark colors on a floor are good because they don't show dirt as much. The fourth item to remember is carpet. 54%, that's over half, of buyers are willing to pay more for hardwood floors. So homes with a lot of carpeting are not as desirable. Carpet can show wear easily, especially with